For this lesson, we're going to talk about drawing faces. Now, usually when you start with the drawing faces, you're going to start with your paper in a portrait landscape. That means vertical. And we're going to start with a circle. That's going to be our main part of our head, where your brain fits. And then we're going to use an oval to create your jaw and your chin. Okay, notice I'm going back and forth, drawing very lightly, because we're going to erase some of these lines here in a few minutes. So now I've got the regular circle to where your forehead and your brain is, and I've got the oval for your chin and jaw. And you see now I'm going to erase these lines that we're not going to use, which is going to leave me with just the outline of that circle for the upper part of my head, and then the lower half of the oval for the jaw and the chin of this face. Now, if I drew too dark, you're going to see a whole bunch of lines, okay? So once I've erased those lines in the middle of our shape, I'm going to go around and still lightly draw the outside. And now you see I have a shape of somewhat like an egg. Now, for our faces, we got to use some math, and we've got to divide this shape in half, okay? 1/2. So we have divided this shape in half, and usually, well, not usually, but almost all the time, the eyes are going to fall right in the middle of the top of your head and the bottom of your chin, okay? So you've got this bottom half down here, and now we're going to divide this bottom half into thirds. 1/3. 1, 2, 3 equal parts. Now we're going to use these lines to start drawing our facial features, okay? So our nose usually is going to start in that the line where we had the halfway mark. That's where our eyes and our nose are going to be, start of our nose and our eyes are going to be. So we're going to lightly draw these shapes for eyes. We've lightly drawn a shape for a nose. And you can see on this bottom half where we divided it into thirds, we drew the nose from that halfway mark down to that line for one of your thirds. So we've got the bottom of our nose right there on that line. Now I've got the second third here, and that's where our mouth is going to be located. So I'm going to draw a shape that would resemble a mouth. And there you have your basic shapes for a face. So the bottom third is going to involve your chin area. You notice I'm going right back over it. Now I've drawn lightly, now I'm going back over it dark because I'm pretty sure that I've got this what I want to start looking like. Now this is nobody in particular. This is just a generic looking face. But a head and a face has to have ears, so I'm going to start drawing the ears. And if you see, I start at the top of the ear right just a little bit above that halfway mark that we made first. And then it comes down to the bottom of the nose, those ears. So now we have to have a hairline, all right? So, hair just doesn't sit on top of the head. It's got to be a hairline. So I lightly draw a hairline in here. And I like what I'm seeing, so I'm going to start drawing this a little bit darker. And like I said, this is no one in particular. This is just me drawing a random person, generic figure. I'm going to start adding in some little details, some shadows. We've talked about, especially 4th and 5th grade, we've talked about shading and stippling and cross hatching and hatching. Okay, so after some of my shadowing and my shading, if you'll look, you'll see I've got a light. It's coming from the top right hand corner. So we have to think about where these facial features are going to cast shadows. If it's coming from the top right hand corner, then the shadows are going to be down on the bottom left of the figure. And if you look here, you can tell that I have used shading, I've used some hatching, I've used some cross hatching. I didn't use any stippling for this, but I used all those other um, shading, all those other value techniques that we talked about earlier in the year. So now what I would like for you to do is to use these techniques to create a drawing of yourself. Find a mirror, piece of paper, and a pencil, and let's draw yourself using these techniques that we just learned about.